Hi everybody. Today we are going to learn how to graph quadratic equations from standard form. So the steps to graph an equation from standard form are always going to be the same. And remember, standard form is when our equation looks like this: ax squared plus bx plus c. The first thing we're always going to do is to find the vertex, which is where we always kind of start when we're graphing. And to do this, we're going to need to use that vertex formula, or sometimes we call it the axis of symmetry formula. So that formula, again, is x equals negative b divided by 2 times a. And remember, b is always the coefficient of x, and a is the coefficient of x squared. So first we need to know the formula, and then we're going to find the y-intercept, which is always going to be 0c if your equation is in standard form. And then you're going to plot the vertex and the y-intercept, and then you're going to go on to use the 1:3:5 ratio to plot additional points on your parabola. Now remember that 1:3:5 ratio, we talked about this at the very beginning of the unit. We multiply this ratio by your a value to adjust for that vertical stretch or shrink. So let's go through one together. So remember, step 1 is always to find the vertex. And of course, to do this, we're going to use our vertex formula. X equals negative b over 2 times a. And then I look at my equation, and I can see that the coefficient of x squared is -1. So I'm going to say a equals -1. And then I need to find b as well. So I look at the coefficient of x, and I see -4. So b is -4. So let's do our substitution. X equals negative, and then I always substitute with parentheses. B is -4, so notice I have 2 negatives. This negative is from the formula. This negative is from my b value. And then I do divided by 2 times, and we're going to substitute a with -1. And now we simplify. Negative times -4 is +4. 2 times -1 is -2. So we get x equals -2. So now I need to find the y value of our vertex. So again, this is just the x value of our vertex. To find the y value, we do f of -2. So now I'm going to take my x value and I'm going to substitute it into our equation. So -2 squared minus 4 times -2 plus 3. Notice when I do this, the negative is still there, the squared is still there, -4 is still here, plus 3 is still here. I'm just replacing any x with -2. So now I'm going to start following my order of operations to simplify. We always start with our exponent. So we have -2 times -2 is +4. Minus 4 times -2 plus 3. And now we can do our multiplication here and here. F of -2 equals -4 plus 8 plus 3. Because again here, -4 times -2 is +8. And now we're just going to simplify by adding or subtracting. So -4 plus 8 is 4 plus 3 is 7. So our vertex is at -2, 7. So when x is -2, y is 7. Okay, so now we can move on to step 2, which is to find the y-intercept. So remember, our y-intercept is always going to be 0 and then our c value. So if you look back up to our original equation, our c value, which is always the constant, and again, the constant is the number without a variable. So I can see that my c value is 3. So I'm going to place 3 as my y-intercept. So now I know my vertex and my y-intercept, so we can move on to step 3, which is to plot those points. So my vertex is -2, 7. So it goes right here. And my y-intercept is 0, 3. And now I have to figure out a few additional points in the graph, and I'm going to make my parabola. So first thing I notice is that my a value again is -1. I want to remind you guys that when our lead coefficient is negative, we have a negative graph. It looks like a sad face. It's a downward facing parabola. To find more exact points, I want to remind you guys that we do our a value. So this again is, this is now step 4. We do our a value, which in this case is -1, times our 1:3:5 ratio, and that tells you where to go for the next points. So instead of 1:3:5, we distribute, and the ratio becomes -1, -3, -5. So this tells us to start at the vertex, and I go down 1 over 1, and that's where I put my coordinate. And then I go down 3 over 1, and that's where my next coordinate would be, which I already have one there, which is good. And then I go down 5 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. So remember, this ratio tells you how to get to the next point. So I go down 1 over 1, down 3 over 1, and down 5 over 1. And now I know that since my axis of symmetry is always right through my vertex, I know that all of these points are going to be reflected onto the other side. So just to kind of show you guys, here's my axis of symmetry. So now I can reflect those points. This coordinate is 1 unit away, so I'm going to go 1 unit away on the other side. This coordinate is 2 units away, so I go 2 units away on this side, and I put my next coordinate. And this coordinate is 3 units away, so I go 3 units away here. And now, if you connect your dots, you'll see that we have a downward facing parabola. So there you go. So again, the process, because you're about to try one on your own, is to find the vertex. Now when it's in standard form, we have to use our vertex formula. So we have to use x equals -b over 2a. So you find your vertex, and then you find your y-intercept, which is always going to be 0, c. And then once you've plotted those, you do your 1:3:5 ratio adjusted for your a value to help you find the extra points. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and give this problem a try. Okay, let's check your work. So the first thing I would like you to check is your vertex. So using the vertex formula, -b over 2a, with the a value of 1 and a b value of 8, 1, 8, you should have gotten x equals -4 and y equals -9. So -4, -9 is our vertex, way down here. And then to find the y-intercept, remember it's just 0 and then whatever our constant is, which in this case is 7. So 0, 7. And then since our a value is just a 1, our 1:3:5 ratio will remain unchanged. So remember, that 1:3:5 ratio says start at the vertex, go up 1 over 1, go up 3 over 1, go up 5 over 1. So that helps you get the next 3 points. And then you'll notice that our y-intercept is already up here, so that the next step of the ratio would be 7. So up 1 over 1, up 3 over 1, up 5 over 1. And these points are just reflected going the other way. So up 1 over 1, up 3, up 5. And so our graph, again, should be an upward-facing parabola with a vertex of -4, 9 and a y-intercept at 0, 7. Okay, that is all for today's lesson. Thank you so much for watching.